created free, created me. I was brought into this world to live authentically, living my life, and it's full of freedom. Nothing in this world that I can't overcome, 'cause I'm created free, created me. I stepped out into this world with my audacity. I'm living bold and I'm full of life, 'cause I am perfectly created free. I'm loving myself, loving myself, loving myself, loving
Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to the Created Free Podcast. I am your proud host, August Crenshaw, aka Mrs. Raw, Real, and Relentless. And you're here because the words created free sound good, but you're working on making it more of a reality in your life. So stick around as we discuss and challenge all that we know and feel about relationships, religion, business, spirituality, emotions, and so much more. Whatever life is throwing at us, okay? It's a topic of discussion. And then watch me show how this is impacting the way that you're showing up as an entrepreneur. So we're going to be challenging authenticity, and we're going to get to the root of who we really are and what we desire, and make sure we're doing everything that we can to manifest a life that we love. All right, so let's get into it. Nothing in this world that I can't overcome, 'cause yeah, that hit a nerve. Do you believe that? I get it. You know, we're out here in this world where you're inundated with promises and stories, all these testimonials of people who appear to have become overnight successes. But if you were to know their story, if they were to go ahead and air out their dirty laundry, you would find that they have overcome so much. Now, on the surface, you may look at some of these people and think, oh, they ain't all that. They still do this or they do that. Or maybe you can tell by looking that they're struggling with something. That's like a really big thing, you know, like with the Christian church. Yeah. Oh, they struggling because they in a relationship and, you know, they ain't married. They homosexual. They drinking all the time. They cuss, you know, the visible sins. But there are people out here that when you look at them, you could judge them by the way that they dress or they talk or their presentation. And you could think that there are some areas in their life where it's like, what they got that I ain't got, that they could be that successful. And you don't even know their story. And that's one of the reasons why I don't do a lot of things that promote my success as far as, you know, from the material side. I share a lot with you all about things that are happening in my life that are non-material. And so I know that there are some people that are like, you know, why? Because their makeup, their clothes, the way they speak or anything. They may be like, well, what does she have that I don't have? And I'm here to tell you all, I'm going to let you know one of the things that I have that some of you all don't. Because there is something. It's just not the superficial shit. It is the fact that I have a relentless mindset, and I have had one for a very long time. See, there's nothing in this world that I can't overcome because I am created free to create the kind of life that I want, to experience the kind of freedom that I desire to feel, and nothing is going to stop me. You know, I had a conversation with a young lady the other day, and she wanted to do something really phenomenal. And in order for her to do it, when she was looking at the circumstances of her life and her income, it just didn't look like it could be accomplished. And I was like, I hear you. But you're talking like, well, if this happens or if that happens, why are you talking like a victim? Why are you talking like you are at the mercy of life? Like, if you want this shit that bad, what are you willing to do in order to be able to get it? I understand. Most people ain't talking like that. They speak in this like, oh my God, you can get, 50 leads a day. And, if just changing your price point alone is going to make you X amount of dollars and boom, you got a lot of money and you can have whatever you want. But the reality is that many of you got so much shit that you've got to overcome, and that person hasn't talked to you. And so they don't know. They don't understand that the reason why it's so difficult for your business to expand, it don't make a difference how many email sequences you do, how many, ads you run, what webinars you master. Your personal relationship skills are so, your emotional intelligence is all so low. Spirit is like, oh, you are gifted. And you can really truly help people in this arena because you're masterful at your craft, but you're going to damage a lot of people because of your personality, or your inability to speak up for yourself. You're going to get ran over by your clients or whatever the hell it may be. And so for me, when I've wanted something, I have not only been relentless about acquiring it, I have been relentless about having a positive perspective. And I need you all to like really slow down and hear that. I have been relentless about having a positive perspective. So when I was younger, my grandmother put me out at a young age. I was a little unruly as a teenager. She sent me to live with my father. He didn't want to deal with the challenge. I remember him putting me out in my senior year. I lived with my boyfriend and his mother, who unfortunately was a drug addict. And I'm just putting emphasis on that, not to diss her, but to let it be known that I was in a situation living in a household with an adult, but I still had to be very grown. And while I didn't have to pay for everything, I, as a teenager, jumped into this world of, oh wow, if I don't buy some food and some soap and water and toothpaste, like I'm gonna be nasty. Adulthood hit me quickly. And when that ended and I went and lived with my mother, loved my mother, but unfortunately my brothers were gang banging, dope dealing, all of that other shit. My younger siblings were always in trouble in school, and I was playing mama, taking them back to school, talking with their principals and teachers to get them back in. I was playing mother even to them. She was on a job with the point system. She couldn't miss work, and so on and so forth. And so I was growing up really, really fast. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I ended up being pregnant. I found out I was pregnant at 18. Baby wasn't due until shortly after I turned to 19. And I was like, I absolutely cannot allow my daughter to be raised in this kind of environment. My living conditions began to matter to me in a way that I couldn't have fathomed before. And this is back in the day, you guys, where there was no bring us 30 days worth of check stubs. And at the age of 18, 19, guess what? Ain't nobody getting ready to lease out an apartment to you. You needed a co-signer. And guess what? Wasn't nobody going to co-sign for me. And I, at that time, we're talking back in 1994, had a job where I was making $10, $11 an hour. Unfortunately, some of you all are making that now. And I also had the ability to do hair and was, starting to get my hustle on even the more. But I was not going to raise my daughter in that household no matter what. And I found out that the way that you could get bumped to the top of the list for Section 8 was to live in a homeless shelter. So my journey of being in a homeless shelter wasn't because I was destitute and left on the street. If nothing else, I could have continued to live with my mother, but it was because of my stance of wanting my daughter to be raised in a different type of environment. And that is an experience that I'll never forget. I remember, because I was still in college at that time, having to walk, definitely about a mile and a half, 2 miles just to get to the closest bus stop that would get me to my classes on time while I was pregnant, carrying my books. And in my English comp class, I wrote a paper called Never Forget to Count Your Blessings, because I had not even thought about how beautiful it was to wake up in the middle of the night and be thirsty and go to the refrigerator and get a cup of water. I couldn't do that. There was no privacy. There's one large bathroom with 2 sinks and, everybody on the floor with their rollaway beds would, huddle around the sink to brush their teeth and wash their face. You could only eat what they gave you to eat when they gave you to eat it. You couldn't take food upstairs to your room. I saw people get put out. The curfew was at 9 p.m. And even if you had a job, you had to talk to your boss about getting back. I'm getting off early. I saw people get to the door at 9:01 and not be allowed to be let in and then put out of the shelter. I was like, damn. And I was at Christian Service Center. If anybody wants to verify, 19th and Cole in St. Louis, Missouri. I don't know if the rules have changed, but baby, they were no joke. And I was probably the happiest, bubbliest person you'd ever seen, because I was like, it could be worse. It could be different. I found a reason to be happy. I knew that if I could just endure this thing, I was going to have a place for me and my baby, and that it would be clean and all of this wonderful stuff. And wouldn't it have just been perfect if I would have gotten my apartment prior to her birth? Well, it didn't work out like that. I went into labor probably about 3.5 weeks before my apartment would be available. And I laid in that bed and I was like, oh my God, I gotta take my child to this shelter, and I can't sterilize bottles. And even though I was going to be breastfeeding, still I planned on pumping, and what about keeping her clean? And I'm on this little twin rollaway bed. I can't have a baby bed, and there for her. And it's so many years past. She might whoop my ass if she knew I told this story, but I think it's been enough time since my daughter's almost 30. I would doubt that Miss Geraldine is still at the facility, and hopefully she's not. But I talked to my grandmother, who had told me I could never come back and live with her. I was like, Granny, I don't want to live with you, but I'm about to bring the first great grandchild that you've ever had into this world. And I haven't even asked the people yet, but if they will allow me to leave the shelter to stay with you, knowing that it is only temporary, can I come here, with my daughter? And first of all, that hurt that I even had to have that kind of conversation, with my grandmother. But she did agree. And I went and I talked to the lady, and I was like, this has got to work. This has got to work. And I said to her, you know what? Bringing a baby into this world is a precious thing, and I need to be able to do this and to do that. And we had to give them like our money and our food stamps, because back in the day you got books and stamps. I was like, look, you've got all my money, you've got my food stamps. I need this place for me and my daughter, but I want my daughter to be raised in an environment where I'm going to be able to have it be safe and clean. And it's not that the shelter was nasty, but the ability to do the things that I need to do and have a safe place for my child, where yes, sometimes I saw drug needles and shit. I didn't want her there. And I'll never forget her looking at me, because Geraldine, the name, she lived up. She was like the warden over the facility. She didn't take no shit. And I get it, because people was trying to scam the system and you dealt with all kind of stuff. But I remember her looking me in the eye and saying, you better not play me, because you won't see this money. You won't see these food stamps. But she told me, she said, I'm going to let you do it. And then she looked at me and she said, under one condition. You got to name your daughter Geraldine. I was like, I already named her Kamaria. But she let me do it. And I felt like shit living with my grandmother. Even as I reflect, I'm so grateful that she let me do it. But it hurt me knowing that I basically had to beg to come back under those circumstances. And I just made it my mission to do whatever it took to always be able to afford to take care of my daughter. I didn't have any limitations on what I would do. And I found a way to be happy in some of the worst circumstances. And so when I needed a miracle, when I needed a breakthrough, when I needed someone to bend the rules for me, some level of grace, that's when I got it. Yeah, totally random story, but I'm telling you something. That's the same thing that I've had to do in my business. I've had to do things I didn't want to do, show up when I didn't want to show up. And you got all these people just telling you that if you got a gimmick and if you just put money on the line, things are going to change for you. And it is a fucking lie. It is all about becoming. I softened up in a way that I hadn't softened up because I was rough. There are some things that I endured that basically had me as a bitter bitch when I was younger. And I realized that that wasn't working. That wasn't going to get me what I desired. And so that same personality, that same essence is part of my current spirit. I don't have what I won't do, but many of you got the what I won't do's. And I was listening to Viola Davis's book, and she was talking about all the stats of, how you basically only see the 4% of successful actors. And she's like, people that talk about the work that they turned down and have this, kind of attitude of like, I'm not going to do this kind of work or that kind of work. Yeah, those are the kind of people that In the end, they just blessed or they lucky. And so when you listen to her story and all of the things that she had to do, when you look at her success, you can't envy her because you don't want her journey. You guys, you don't want your journey. You got to want your journey. There's nothing in this world that you can't overcome because you are created free. But you're going to have to spend a season of unlearning. And some of it is unlearning the behavioral standards that you have. Breaking free. Saying that I'll do whatever the fuck it takes to get there. Right now, if anything happened, and I had to go back to driving Lyft or Uber or working a secondary job or whatever it is just to kind of tide me over to get to the next level that I got to get to, guess what? I'll do it. I'll do it in a heartbeat. If it means that for just a moment in time, I may have to compromise the way that I'm living and only working for myself. Why? Because I'll have a plan or a strategy. I know that I need that additional income for ads or something, or what, because maybe I hit such a funky ebb versus a flow in my business. Because there's a nothing I won't do mentality. Most of the time, I don't even have to do it. I have learned in my lifetime when I have said, I'll do whatever the fuck I got to do, that there are some sacrifices that I have not necessarily had to make. And some of you got to get into that place to say, you know what? I'm going to stop trying to figure out what's the cheap, quick, and easy way. I am going to go ahead and have the do whatever it takes mentality. And the do whatever it takes mentality is really more so about altering you to become the greatest version of yourself. So no limits. There's nothing that you can't overcome. So stop trying to cheat the system. Embody the journey. Enjoy the journey. And watch you reap the benefits that you're looking for. This relentless mindset is not an anomaly. It's one of the reasons why I call myself the #1 advanced mental conditioning specialist for entrepreneurs, because women that work with me decide that they want to face themselves. And so, yeah, I talk about, powerful copy and video and sales and blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, I'm going to help you be the woman, the version of you that needs to show up so that you can be unstoppable in business. So I'm looking forward to seeing you, Queen. I am looking forward to seeing you. Click the link, get your case study, and then set up a call. I'll see you on the other side. Shesheni to all my listeners. Yes, thank you for tuning in to the Created Free podcast, but it ain't over yet, baby. Don't forget to head over to augustcrenshaw.com/gift and get your free case study. I'm hoping that you are realizing more and more how everything is connected, and this is impacting how your marketing muscle looks in your business, especially as it pertains to copy, video, and then also your sales muscle. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a 5-star review. Share this episode with someone you know that needs it, and just stay tuned, and we'll be back to discuss another topic next week or whenever the hell I feel like it. All right, you all have a beautiful day. Deuces.